Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
There is a lot happening. From Wendy Williams finally filing for divorce to secret footage of OC Housewives filming, a scrapped Britney Spears music video leaks, and SNL spoofs The View. That and my guest, Jess Zadeh, talks being a former Hollywood nanny now. Let the ranting begin. I am sitting across from Jess Zadeh, a podcaster and a real housewife of LA. And you can find her on the podcast, The Real Housewife of the Westside. Welcome to the Rants.
Thank you so much for having me, Grant. Yes, I am a real housewife and I live on the west side of Los Angeles, hence the Real Housewife of the West Side.
As real as it gets.
As real as it gets.
She speaks our language, people. I mean, she watches the Bravo. She watches the reality TV.
I do. I texted you yesterday. I was wrapping up the season of Seeking Sister Wife, which is just an amazing shit show. If you haven't watched it, highly recommend it.
I haven't, but I've heard good things.
Oh,
I know it has like a cult following. Like people are all in.
It does. It's quite the situation, and I highly recommend it. A good episode of Seeking Sister Wives. It is 2 hours, so it's a commitment. It's 2-hour show, but that paired with a nice glass of rosé, Pinot Grigio, you're good to go.
There you go.
It's a great time.
I think people listening are looking for something like that. I mean, I know I'm always looking for some type of an escape and a distraction for the work.
It's the equivalent to me of like taking a Xanax. It's a Xanax for your mind.
That's fine, yeah.
That's what it is.
I get that.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's a little vacation on your couch.
Well, I want to know, what do you think of Wendy Williams and this divorce? It was announced Thursday afternoon. I think this was highly manipulating the press, basically, which I can't blame her. I mean, she's been on the cover of every magazine. Thursday, she announced it. The news broke after she taped her Thursday show. She pre-tapes a Friday show. So this gives basically 4 days for her not to give a statement and for this to kind of blow over. But in this media culture now, I mean, do things really blow over? I mean, for me, it doesn't.
Right. Yeah, and I remember you when we were speaking earlier this week. You were talking about that, about how that was a good call on her, whoever her PR person is, to do it on a Thursday, so you kind of have that blowover period. But I was looking into it more this morning to get ready to talk with you today, and I found. There's, on E, they're talking about it. On page 6, they're talking about it. Everyone's talking about it. She said, if you ever see me without my wedding band or my wedding ring, it means it's really over. So I guess it's off.
Well, yeah, there was a post. Her stylist put it out, and it was her kind of rubbing her hands together with a little smirk. And you could see that she just had on her, like, a butterfly or a flower. Actually, it's a flower ring that she's talked about in the past, but not her wedding band. Mm-hmm. And, the hand was open for business.
The hand was open for business. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Heather Dubrow's, I think it was a Chanel ring that she used to wear with her wedding band. Do you remember what I'm talking about? No. Heather Dubrow had like a floral, now everyone's going to go look for it, a floral, I think it was a Chanel ring that she would wear with her wedding band. And I don't know what the symbolism of it was. I think it was like an anniversary present from Terry or something. Who knows? Yeah. But anyways, it reminded me of that. It was very reminiscent. But that Instagram video, she's making kind of an odd facial expression. I didn't know what to make of
She
that.
did the same thing when she made a reference a couple of weeks ago. Dr. Dre allegedly beat one of these women in his life in the past, and now she can't find work. And at the end of this, Wendy looked to the camera and said, "What kind of man beats a woman?" And then she looked at her right shoulder and smirked. Because everyone said that incident that happened in December was a result of her husband beating her, allegedly. It was never explained otherwise.
Right.
So I think that's her way of getting the message across indirectly, which is smart, but also you come out and say it like you mean it, Wendy.
Right. Right. I've heard, I think everyone's heard rumors for quite a while that's been the situation.
It's like the worst kept secret that her husband's a douche.
Exactly. Which, why wouldn't you just come out and say it? And I'm really kind of torn torn because I was watching a clip of The View and Joy Behar was talking about it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was begrudgingly watching a clip of The View. And, Joy was talking about it and she was explaining how, her husband, Wendy's husband is Kevin, he basically, they're so, everything's so intermingled, which I feel bad for Wendy in a sense because
he runs her business.
Exactly. So I'm like, it would be hard to get out, I mean, if you think about it, and then I think it was E! News said that Wendy's net worth is $60 million and her husband's net worth is only $7 million. So that's the other thing. And then there was an attorney that said that, and I didn't know this, that New Jersey technically is an at-fault state. So if she were to, on the divorce decree, say, I'm divorcing him because whatever, he did this or he did that, then she would, he could get pittance, whatever. Right. But because she said irreconcilable differences, I guess everything, assumingly, will be split down the middle, which I'm like, is that really fair?
Well, that's it. And page 6 did say irreconcilable differences. However, it says that she is seeking child support and other relief.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I don't get that.
Isn't their son like 18?
Yeah, he's 18 and in college. That doesn't make any sense to me.
The only thing I can think is maybe if, let's say he's going to whatever college in September, if maybe that means that she wants Kevin to pay for the college tuition, maybe?
Maybe.
I don't know.
There's got to be some cost involved in that. Yeah.
There has to, because
they don't qualify for financial aid. I mean, clearly with that much money in their net worth.
Or maybe she wants him to pay like his health insurance. I don't know. That's the only thing I can think, because it's not like he's going to give her a monthly stipend for clothes for their college child.
Right. She'll be returning to her show on Monday. Well, I'm sure we'll get some type of statement. So we're kind of guessing here, 24 hours in advance, wondering what's really going to happen. But what's interesting is the day that he was served was Thursday at the studio for the Wendy Williams show, 6:30 a.m. And apparently she had extra security there because she didn't know how he was going to react. I mean, that says it all right there.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And I also saw some video, I forget if it was on, I think it might have been on Page 6 TV or something, about the alleged mistress. And, all of a sudden, I find it hard to believe that she's not the mistress, because all of a sudden she's driving a brand new Ferrari. She has a brand new Chanel bag. She has
a baby.
A baby. Yeah, exactly. And she, if she had the baby, what was it? It wasn't that long ago. She still kind
less than a month ago.
Yeah, she still kind of has a bump, which everyone knows when you give birth. It takes a while unless you're Hilaria Baldwin, it takes a while for, everything to kind of go back the way it was, because she said in her book that her husband had cheated 19 years ago, and she said some type of statement like, the only way I would ever leave him is if he strayed again. And so I don't know if maybe it was the baby that was the final straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know, but
Wendy, I got to give it to you. I mean, you finally found it in yourself to find some self-respect and get out of this. Now, it does say in this Page 6 article the marriage was dissolved 6 months ago. But, she put up with a lot in the public eye, unless if she is super stealthy and we're not giving her enough credit and she's working with high-powered lawyers and this is all part of a big plan to bankrupt him and to get everything, then I'm all for it.
That could be the case.
Yeah.
It very well could be. Who knows what her, I'm sure she has the best of the best as far as legal representation, and yeah. I mean, that could very well be there.
I just wasn't cool with her giving out so much advice on the show when her life was in such a mess and she wasn't acknowledging it. I know, and people have corrected me on Twitter, her show is not about her life. But giving advice out and playing a judge and all the stuff that she's been doing the last couple of months doesn't ring true to me. And I've had a hard time watching the show. And now I'm definitely going to be watching Monday. So good for her.
Yeah. Oprah would always bring it back to, she would say, if she was talking about marriage or weight loss or whatever, especially weight loss, for example, which is something, we all know Oprah struggled with. She would always say, well, I can't do that or whatever. I feel like Oprah was a little more self-deprecating and Wendy's been a little more preachy. So that I agree with. It kind of rubs me the wrong way where I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to say that, then you're being a little hypocritical. But I don't know. We don't know what she's going through, and I think she's a tough cookie. She's going to come out fine.
Amen. Moving on to Real Housewives of Orange County. The show is back taping. A fan captured them recording season 14, a scene with Tamra and Shannon at the Laguna Coffee Company. And this Instagram account, at Real Housewives of Orange County, posted this video with the caption reading, Tamra Judge seems to allege that Kelly Dodd threw her mother down the stairs in this clip as she was spotted filming season 14 with Shannon. Now, Tamra replied to this, and this is definitely her. It's her account, verified. She said, actually, I did not say that she threw her mom down the stairs. I was sticking up for Kelly after someone said that she should get her facts straight. Now there's word that Kelly's mom wants to sue Tamra for this. I mean, I don't know if they can with Bravo contracts. I'm sure it's in a contract. You can't sue one another.
Right.
So who knows what will actually happen. But there's a lot going on with this on social media, and I've been following it because it's all real time.
Right.
And as opposed to waiting 9 months to see this play out when it airs in like September, basically. Let's talk about it now.
I think that's a common, and listen, I'm here for it. I'm a huge supporter. I think that's a common. It reminds me a little bit of this season of New York, about how, this last summer they moved up filming because there was so much going on, and of course, we learned about Dennis and whatever, all that. In real time. I think and I hope that they do that with OC. So, I mean, I don't know what, when the planned premiere date was. I thought it was somewhere like in the middle of the summer, but I'm hoping that they move it up to maybe start right after New York is done, because I think that there's so much going on right now, like you said, in real time, with the Vicky Brooks lawsuit, with Tamra versus Kelly, that they really should, I guess, capitalize on it in a way and just move everything up. And because people are talking about it, use it to your advantage.
As long as it's still good.
Yes.
These West Coast based shows are in terrible shape. So I'm hoping there's more to the story, because it seems to me like this story between Tamra, Kelly, and Shannon seems like it's kind of like a misunderstanding that I think they could get past.
Right.
So I'm hoping there's more to it. Neither Tamra or Kelly are currently following each other on Instagram. I can confirm. I checked. Tamra posted Instagram story on Saturday, as she said, assuming makes an ass out of you. So I'm assuming that can only be directed to Kelly and her mother. Kelly posted something about so happy to have my family back.
I saw that. I wasn't really sure what that was. The only thing I could think that I know that she said that there was a bit of a situation between Kelly, her brother, and her mom, in the past. So I don't know. And last I heard, her mom was living in Phoenix. So I don't know if she moved back or what the situation was. I mean, here's the thing. I do not think that, and I may be wrong, but I don't think that it could get much worse than the last 2 seasons. I think that would be pretty difficult to do. Not that I'm challenging them, but and that's the other thing. That's, at first I was a little excited. I'm like, okay, the, Vicky Brooks stuff is happening. Maybe we'll hear about that.
We'll talk about that.
Tamra, oh my God, Tamra, Shannon, Kelly situation. But if this is all just convoluted mishigas just to kind of get a story, that I'm like, not here for it, whatever. Have we confirmed whether Vicky is friend of or full-time orange holder this season?
Last I heard, she was on her Instagram. At least she believes she is.
Well,
I mean, we'll see.
What Vicky believes and what the truth is are two very different things.
Very different things. That's the truth. That's the only truth in that matter. Speaking of Vicky, you mentioned the lawsuit.
Yes.
She's suing her ex Brooks for $266,000 in unpaid loans, and she's suing him for fraud. The suit is filed in Las Vegas, of all places, because it pertains to meetings and discussions they've had there.
Right.
And Brooks has not yet been served at the time of reporting this here on the Rants, but the whole case is still being processed right as of now. I don't know. Is this storyline worthy? Is this more of a talking head comment? Like, the Brooks things, it's all played out, unless if Brooks is in touch with Kelly. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
We need Megan King Edmonds to come back in with her detective, outfit and look into this. If I had to, guess or predict the future, I would say that it will be somewhat of a storyline, because I feel like, okay, we've been invested in this, or maybe not invested, but along for the ride in the whole Brooks debacle for quite some time. So I feel like in a way it's only fair for Bravo to include this, because I was going to say it involves us, but it's like, okay, you took us so far, you have to, you know what I mean?
We want to see the story play out. I mean, we've been introduced to Brooks. We saw him get new teeth. We saw him recover from cancer, apparently.
Which I want to know. No one's talked about this specifically, but I want to know if that is listed in the lawsuit, as far as, if there was some kind of agreement, like I will pay for your veneers, but you need to pay me back or whatever, because that's a pretty penny. And
very
insurance
expensive.
generally does not cover that.
Yeah, they don't.
I'd like to do it.
Procedure. Yeah, I'd like to. I think a nice set of teeth is very impressive. I'd like to actually get veneers, but I know the price, so I'm more looking at like, Smile Direct. I mean, really, that's more my level.
I know. And I just,
not sponsored, Smile Direct.
Feel free. I don't know. And the other things are, okay, they say they entered into a verbal agreement. I don't know how much verbal agreements hold up in court. And also,
I know.
She's suing him for all this money. Do we think Brooks even has this money to pay her back?
I think she knows that she'll get a fraction of this. I think aim high, and you'll probably get like $80K. Right. One of them was like, I think it was like $81,000 that she gave to him for lawyers' fees.
Right.
She'll probably maybe get something like that. I don't think she's going to get everything, but good for her for sticking it to him. And I mean, I wouldn't fault her. She's got plenty of money if she just wanted to put all this behind her.
Right.
But, if money's owed, And Vicky's not going to shy away from money.
No, we all know Vicky. She will not shy away from that. And the other thing, I think, well, this is my opinion, that there was an episode of Watch What Happens Live when I think Andy played like a clip, like a responsum from Brooks in something, and he, said something not really so nice about her. And I don't know, maybe that triggered that. And she was like, oh, hell no, he is not going to go badmouth me around when I'm the one who, got him new teeth, got him new clothes. She took him to Brooks Brothers, got him a new wardrobe. I don't know if it was Brooks Brothers. I'm just making that up. But anyway, you know what? I say, go, Vicky. He's a piece of shit. And just, like you said, it'll probably end up being some lump sum that's, negotiated way down, and then he's going to have to pay restitution. Yep. And it's probably going to be split into like, what, $150 a month for like 17 years.
Yeah, she'll never be rid of him.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
She'll get the last laugh. So
Exactly. Yeah.
Before we go to break, I want to briefly mention Dina Lohan, very common topic here on Grant's Rants. The mystery boyfriend, apparently, they were going to meet next week, and he broke up with her over the phone because she was unhappy that he liked or promoted a book on his personal Facebook page that was by a woman, and she alleged that he was cheating on her with this, apparently. He spoke with the blast, and I really can't believe this is still a story, but it's Dina, so I'm talking about it ever so briefly. It's a footnote here. This just goes to show how little I think of this, and I love Dina, but also he was going to give her vintage Tiffany earrings. It's over.
Yeah, I loved that anecdote. He allegedly had an engagement ring and vintage Tiffany earrings. I'm like, is vintage Tiffany earrings, is that code for earrings from eBay?
Yeah, or like his mom.
Or his mom. It's like, what kind of thing? I went and looked at some of his social media pictures, and if you are looking for a reprieve from life, I highly suggest it. He's an interesting dude. This whole thing, ever since we heard about it on Celebrity Big Brother, which I watched this season. And
amen.
I mean, when they were talking about that in that room, and she said to Tamar, and who is it? Tamar and Candy?
Yeah.
They were in the room with her, and she was like, everyone was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This whole story just still blows my mind, and who knows? I feel like in 2 weeks they're going to be at some, I don't know, like random winery with a selfie of the two of them. Or like, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, apparently they're still in touch, so... That's probably as much as I will cover the story unless they get married. Just saying. When we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit of Hollywood talk around Warner Brothers. They're freaking out over all this Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, just pure mess. And there's a Britney Spears leak, and I want to talk about it. That and more with Jess in a moment. Now this.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back on the Rants, talking with Jess Zadeh here. And we're looking at, over the break, the Make Me leak video from Britney. For those that don't know, there was a music video that was released. It was not the original one shot. She nixed the first one. Now the original one that I just referenced is now out, and it's super sexy. It's super hot. It's a little topical, I guess. In Las Vegas, they have they have a squatting problem with people going into homes that have eviction notices, and people just squat in these houses. And who knew that, she was speaking to, a local problem in Vegas.
I mean, leave it to Britney to voice the, the concerns of Las Vegas.
And squatters' rights, standing up for squatters' rights.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, that makes sense. And especially now, viewing that video, I feel like I need a moment to decompress after viewing that.
It's hot, right?
Wow. It is hot. Okay. Wow. I don't know where to start with this. So Britney looks amazing. She and I, of course, everyone's seen her do her workout routine, whatever. And I mean, she looks like she's in the best shape of her life. And I will say throughout the video, she's doing this, they call it in bar class, thigh dancing. And I don't know how to describe it, but you sit on your heels, I guess, and you kind of move up and down, and it actually does burn a lot in your thighs. I can attest to that. So yeah, she does that a lot. I wouldn't say it's it's highly sexual. I don't know. I don't think it's anything worse than anything
right.
else she's relied on, or
I
anything
agree
that Madonna's done or whatever.
I mean, she's simulating sex. I mean, look at any Britney video for the most part.
Exactly. I feel like back when Baby One More Time came out in the 90s, I feel like everyone was like, oh my God.
I know. I never got the shock value in that.
Yeah, you look at
it
it now and you're like, okay, this is like Nick Jr. But
yeah, I never saw the big deal. When she had the rhinestone suit on doing Oops, I Did It Again at MTV, I was like, she's in a bodysuit. I just never really thought that it was that dangerous.
No, I don't think whatever. And I don't know do we know whose idea this music video was, or
David LaChapelle directed it, so I'm assuming it's a lot of him.
Okay, yeah, because
I didn't realize that they reshot basically the whole video except for the G-Eazy part. I really thought that for the most part they just kind of took out a few scenes and replaced things. But when I watched the official Vivo one, the second version that came out, it's a totally different video.
She resuscitates her love interest.
Yeah, who looks like he's a drug addict.
That's a questionable. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't know that Britney was CPR certified, but good for her.
God bless. And God need we trust.
She's in a cage. Yeah, I don't know what to. It's a lot. I'm just kind of at a loss for this. I mean, I was telling you earlier, I saw the movie Us last night, the Jordan Peele movie, which is a psychological thriller, and I feel like that was simplistic compared to this movie or this music video.
Before I move on to Warner Brothers and what's going on, I want to briefly mention the SNL spoof, The View. Did you have a chance to look at this?
I did not have a chance to look at this, no.
I love the old school spoofs. This spoof was okay. It was all right. SNL, I want to say, it's always kind of like they're on their second draft when they go to tape. I feel like they've got the format down, it's cast, they know what they want to do, but it's not tweaked. I need, the humor could have been better. And I feel this way about a lot of their sketches. They're about maybe 50% of the way there at most. I think it could have used some more time and some new jokes and some alts, I should say. They're almost there with a lot of their sketches, but they're not all the way there. And that's just my thought on that.
I agree. I mean, for me, SNL peaked, in the Tina Fey, Amy Poehler days. That was kind of heyday of it for me, at least. And I mean, I love a good View spoof and whatever, but what I always go back to is it's hard for me to watch it without. I always think of Sherry O'Terry doing Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's. And Tracy Morgan as Star Jones. I'm sorry.
I know Keenan is Whoopi.
I
yeah.
can't. Nothing else for me will ever live up to that. So everything, beyond that for me is like, eh.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you watched Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them or whatever it is?
No. What is that?
That's one of these Warner Brother movies. J.K. Rowling, one of her creations.
Okay.
So Johnny Depp has appeared in them. He's going to be appearing in Fantastic Beasts 3. The company that's producing this movie, Warner Brothers, is said to be freaking out over this because he's just been in the news lately with his ex-wife, Amber Heard, on a super ugly divorce. She alleges a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to say the highlights. That he was violent, abusive, a monster. He choked her. He attempted to suffocate her. He ripped out her hair. Depp's response to this is that it's a hoax. It's a lot. The script is complete. Filming was set for summer and is now pushed to fall of next year. Mm-hmm. That's a long ways off to push a whole project. Yeah. There's a lot going around this. What do you think of this scandal?
And I mean, a lot of I was reading through a lot of the stuff, and I don't know. I know everything is alleged, but the Amber Heard, I mean, she has a lot of text messages. She has a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of what I would call evidence. I mean, she said, he has this kind of alternate personality that they call the monster, which, and I don't know. I mean, I've read, I'm sure you have too, a bunch of like blind items and whatever about, and just, gossip over the years that people have heard here and there that, this is my opinion, allegedly, I do personally think that he probably does have, I don't know if it's, borderline personality disorder or bipolar, something like that.
I think it's safe to say he has a dark side.
Yeah. And just this incident of where he, ruined her closet, and just like, it sounds like he goes into these really manic, dark episodes and just destroys things. And he left like this quote about Carly. I mean, nothing makes sense. And I totally get it from a business standpoint why Warner Brothers would do that, even though it's probably costing them even more money to do that. I mean, what's the budget for this film? Probably huge, right?
Right. And there's release dates involved and calendar years they have to look at.
I mean, and I get that. And I know someone said that it's another the other thing, the other, I guess, attitude or theory that could impact Warner Brothers as a studio is the issue of, now we're in like the Me Too movement and the morale of female employees at the studio. And it's like, okay, if Warner Brothers is going to stick by Johnny Depp, like, do you think they would stick by, let's say it was, I don't know, Anne Hathaway doing this. Do you think that they would, do you know what I mean? Do you think they'd be treating it the same? I don't know. They might just, my personal opinion is that if it were someone like a female actress, like whoever, I don't know, Jennifer Lawrence or something, if a woman was having the same type of incident, I feel like they probably would maybe replace her with, be like, okay, you go to rehab and we're going to replace you with someone else. So and this is the thing, do we know? I mean, does Johnny Depp have a contract with Warner Brothers that maybe that's an issue?
Could be. Other roles have been recast for stranger reasons in the past.
True.
It's a fine line because if you toss them out and you recast them, you're going to give a reason why, and then now you're taking a stance.
And a huge financial loss.
Yeah, potentially. And not only that, but J.K. Rowling, who's created this franchise, obviously super successful from Harry Potter, she's kind of standing behind him in so many words she said it. That, she's taking his side in all of this. So now that puts Warner Brothers in a bad position because now whatever they do, they're going to piss somebody off. Right. And like you said, the female morale, this is not the climate. This is not the time to make the wrong decision.
It is not the time, which may be why they're pushing it. Maybe they're like, okay, let's take a beat. Let's wait for all this to die down. Listen, I'm a huge proponent of, mental health and getting the help that you need, and I would never shame someone for having, an issue like that. However, I do think that if someone is behaving like this in a like Lisa Rinna said about, Vanderpump skipping certain events or whatever. This is your job. You're a professional. You show up. And right now, his personal life is impeding that. So I do think that, I don't know, maybe Warner Brothers needs to come out and say, listen, we want you on the film. You're part of, the first two installments. However, until you take care of XYZ and, come to like maybe a better place, then we can go forward. I think that would be a great option, because then you're not excusing it. You're not making excuses for it. You're holding him accountable. And I don't know, but
I just hate to see people hold a project hostage, because there are hundreds of jobs, waiting on this. I mean, if you look at the credits at the end of a movie, I mean, all those people need to get paid, and if they think they got a deal and they're waiting on this one guy to clear up his personal drama with his ex-wife, I mean, it's unfair to them.
It is.
I do believe that he has a dark side, and maybe it's amplified. Maybe in his mind, she did something against him that set him off. Maybe she did provoke him to a slow. I mean, every relationship has, they know how to push each other's buttons. I mean, maybe this wasn't a healthy relationship, amplified by alleged drug use. Maybe it's drinking. Maybe it's a personality disorder, what have you. And it blows out of control. And that's what I think probably happened. They did talk about how he kind of blacks out with these things, which is not good either. So I can understand why he feels like, it's a hoax. But, this is why, like, it's a terrible thing, but turn on the video when something like that happens. I mean, there's your evidence. If you've got a madman coming at you. There's your proof. I mean, everyone has a cell phone in their pocket now.
It's true. Yeah, it is true. And I know that he alleged that Amber Heard cheated on him with Elon Musk, which I don't know if that's true or not.
So messy.
It is really messy. And it's just, I mean, also, it makes me think of, like, I feel bad for his kids too. I really feel, I don't know.
It's really hard to put your faith in man. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the scandals in Me Too and Moonves and all of them briefly, because it is Hollywood talk after all. But it's a big story right now, and we're talking about it.
And I feel like we're probably going to be talking about it some more.
Yeah. Well, let's talk with you. I want to switch gears completely, and I don't know how to transition from that. But I want to talk about nannying here in LA. I know that you have a background in doing that. I mean, that's something that I feel like isn't really talked about, but it's a big job. That there's a lot of folks that do that here. I mean, there are kids.
Yeah, I majored in education and child psych in college, and I wanted to become a teacher, and I taught at a private school, and I did not realize that in private schools you make considerably less than in public schools in Los Angeles County. I don't know if it's like that in other places, but anyway, so that's kind of how I got into it, and I started nannying. And my dad said to me, he's like, this just doesn't make any sense. And it's true. In LA, you can, and of course it depends on, the type of job or whatever, but you can make 6 figures easily as a nanny versus, teaching. I was making not even a quarter of what I was as a nanny. But it is.
That's terrible.
I think it's said to, it is terrible. It's horrible. And, teachers not being compensated, that's a whole nother, discussion. But I was in my mid-20s, and I was saying to you, it's, it's weird. It's a mind because it's like during the day, I was driving a Range Rover and going back to, these compounds in Bel Air, wherever it was. And then at night, I would, I told you at the time I was driving my old 3 Series that was a stick shift, and I don't know, it was like a 2000 or whatever. Not that that's that bad, but whatever. Anyways, and I was, drive my old car back to my studio apartment in West Hollywood, and it is kind of weird because it's like you're living this duplicitous life in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like you are so much part of that family in a way because you're privy to such intimate things. I mean, like, for God's sakes, you're watching someone like breastfeed their child. Like, what gets more intimate than that?
Right.
But then in a way, it's very, and I say this to girls now that I know who nanny. I'm like, and girlfriends that I have now who employ nannies. I'm like, you need to, from the very beginning, set very explicit boundaries. And I always say, fill out a contract, because I've gotten really, really f***ed by not having a contract. And I told a story on my Patreon about a celebrity couple who I worked for who ended up firing me because I saw an indiscretion between the wife and someone else. And she was afraid I would tell the husband. And so they let me go because of that. And
Did you have to sign an NDA?
You know what? I didn't end up signing an NDA.
Wow.
At the end, she asked me.
Non-disclosure agreement for those
yes,
not aware.
non-disclosure. After she had, and it was my fault for not insisting on a contract in the beginning. So that part, was my fault.
But you learn. You're learning.
I think I was 26 at the time.
That's the difference, though, with going to school to be a teacher.
Right.
And then going into being employed as a nanny. I mean, there aren't those how-tos and guidelines.
Right.
I mean, you learn as you go.
Right. Yeah. And it's, and even if you go through an agency, ultimately, it's the family who is employing the nanny. Ultimately, it is their choice whether they want to have a contract signed. So, I mean, yes, I could have said, well, I'm not starting work until I get a contract signed, but it's a weird job because it's like you kind of are a friend, you kind of are a family member, but you're also an employee, and it's weird. And it was I got a lot of good stories out of it, but it was an interesting experience. And it also, after that last job that I was just speaking about, I told myself I will never work in any capacity for a celebrity again, because, and not to say that everyone is like this at all, but I just think that sometimes there is a reason why, certain actors and actresses are so good at their job, because I think, you maybe need to be a little kookadoodle to be that, artistic or brilliant or whatever. And it's just, it's a lot. So it's, Yeah.
Were you working for an A-lister?
How would I categorize that? This particular story, no. The father was the son of an A-lister, and the mother was kind of a has-been, I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anything that she's done in the recent future. She was big in, I guess, the early 2000s, but yeah, and that's the other thing that's so funny is that I was their full-time nanny from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and it's like, it wasn't like she was going to work all the day. It was just like she and I would go like shopping together with the baby. It was
so you were just like,
it was like one baby too.
Oh, wow.
One baby. Yeah. So it's,
well, good for you. Cash the check. You know what I mean?
I cashed a check, and I did. You asked about the NDA. Yes. After she let me go and I called her on it, I said, this is really, I tried to get on more of a human level with her. And I said, listen, what you're doing is really awful. I said, you were firing me and, jeopardizing my livelihood. I don't have a backup job because of something that you did, and you are uncomfortable and you are insecure about that. I gave her my word that no, I wouldn't say anything to her husband. Yeah. And she said, well, I said, can you give me a severance, like a month's severance or something? And listen, obviously they were in the financial position to do that. And she said, well, I can do that if you sign an NDA. And I said, sure, fine. I'll sign the NDA and I'll, whatever. And at the time I happened to be dating an attorney. And so she was going back and forth with him. And long story short, it never happened. She never sent the NDA. I never got a severance. And, it's interesting because I still to this day, I've never run into her. Although she lives not really in the same little pocket of LA that I do. So, but, last night my husband and I were in the neighborhood where she lives, and I mentioned to him, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I read it? He was like, what would you say? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like in the moment I always get kind of, choked up. But I was like, I think I would just say like, oh, hey, how are you? Are you still fucking your ex-boyfriend in Miami?
Just shout it out.
I mean, why not? What do I have to lose at this point?
Not a damn thing.
Exactly.
Wow.
So,
Oh, well, I like this. This was good intel. This is interesting conversation. For those who want more of this, you can check out Jess's podcasts. There are 2 of them. Where can we find them?
There are 2 of them. Yes, I do kind of play favorites, unlike Julie. Yes, my podcast, The Real Housewife of the Westside podcast. I know it's really long. It's on iTunes, on Spotify. I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/RHOW. And my Patreon is where I put things like, the story of this couple. I put, my run-ins with Housewives, that kind of thing. And yes, I do have a second podcast that, because my background is in child psychology and child development, I have a podcast with 2 of my girlfriends about parenting, and it's called the #NoJudgment podcast. But my Real Housewife of the Westside podcast, that one is released every Tuesday and Thursday. I have an episode with Grant that's going to be released this Tuesday. And
check it out.
Yeah, it's going to be.
We had a great talk.
We had a great talk. We went deep. We talked about, we got into Scientology.
I love that. I love to talk about it, not to practice Scientology.
Exactly. Hopefully we're both not on Scientology list right now. We need to release our addresses in case anything, God forbid, happens. Knock on wood.
Well, we love having you on the Rants. Thank you for the chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so much fun. And thank you for the rosé.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. I love you guys for listening. Honestly, the show has been doing really well lately, and I'm so thankful to all of you, especially any new listeners that are checking out and giving the show a shot. I so appreciate you. And you can always check me out over on Patreon, too, patreon.com/GrantsRants. I love you for listening. As always, we'll be back with more rants.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon at patreon.com/GrantsRants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Rone. Voiceover by Aw Yeah! Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.